When you do that, whether you click the ad or not, your data passes through to Google, and that includes your age, your gender, your income, your parental status. I was like, can Google Ads be used for things other than making money and selling people crap and products and services and men's shoes and divorce lawyers and to de-radicalize people using ads, Google Ads? He survived, and something very stunning that he had said after was when he jumped, like he just regretted that he had jumped as soon as he did it. And he also said that he wished that one person on the bridge had like spoken to him and maybe like just listened to him and he wouldn't have jumped. That got me thinking, like, what if he had Googled, like, I'm suicidal, I want to kill myself? I directed people to a suicide hotline in this campaign. So these three things happen at the same time. And I learned about, basically had this light bulb moment as I was sitting there in this writing retreat and I couldn't write. I bought the keywords, I saw a UAP, I saw a UFO, report a UAP, report a UFO.
That there are more sightings around nuclear sites, nuclear bases, strategic nuclear sites. Have you seen any kind of variables there where there are correlations perhaps with specific sites at all? Or have you got the ability to build that into, the tech? The following is a conversation with Pat Berlinquette. Pat is a fantastic musician and all-round humble guy. For example, whilst interviewing him and prior to interviewing him, when we've talked behind the scenes, I hadn't actually realised that I've got one of Pat's songs in my own music playlist. And Pat didn't bring up his music. I wish he had, but you may not have enjoyed all of the fanboy questions. However, that's not what we were here to discuss in this interview. Pat has created a groundbreaking new website and soon to be downloadable app tracking UAP sightings. The website is called UAPsightingtracker.com. He's a Google Ads expert who's helped with suicide prevention, anti-radicalisation, drug support redirecting, and meddled in experiments in political advertising. An all-round Google tech disruptor, in my opinion, in a good way. His experiments with Google Ads are featured in the New York Times, Wired, BBC, NPR, and Mashable. An all-round fascinating guy, a deep thinker, and someone in the early stages of some real top-level disruptive innovation. So, the following is a conversation with Pat Berlinquette. Pat, thanks so much for joining me. I really appreciate your time. And if it's okay, I just want to kind of jump in first of all and get a bit of an idea before we come into what you're working on and the stuff that we've been talking about sort of behind the scenes. What first piqued your interest in UFO UAP? Where did that kind of start?
All right, not like so much UFOs and ufology, but I've been really into cosmology. It happened when I was 20 years old. I took a class by this guy, Frank Fresenda, who was a cab driver in the city. And he was like 55 years old, driving down a street in New York City. And he had the realization like that he's like, why am I driving a cab? I'm so interested in the cosmos. And he wanted to teach a class on cosmology in the tail end of his life. So he started teaching at a community college. I was 18 years old when I took this class. And I had like, I don't know why it took me till I was 18 to like learn about the cosmos, but that says something about my teachers. I don't know. But he was like a Carl Sagan kind of type, and um he had a way of explaining things that got me fascinated. And I would stay after class and I'd talk to him. I never did that before. I was like, he was the first professor I think I did that with. But he told me like basic facts about the cosmos, the amount of solar systems and the galaxies and the amount of galaxies in the universe, black holes, relativity, quantum mechanics, things I didn't really know about until I was 18 years old.
Yeah.
So blew my mind the way he described it. And my experience up until that point was like movies. Like everyone in my generation, I saw the movie Fire in the Sky. I don't know if you saw that movie.
Yeah, great film.
Okay. So I have friends of mine, colleagues who can't even talk about this movie. They've been traumatized to such an extent. Uh, this is what happened. I was 8 years old. It's like ABC 10 o'clock news. All right, the 10 o'clock movie coming up next, Fire in the Sky. It sounded like a nice movie. It's a Wednesday night. It's a school night. And the movie's, it's insane because it's like a courtroom drama for like an hour and a half. It's very dry and then that scene with this, he has that flashback and the syrup falls on him and he goes into the spaceship and then like millions of kids were traumatized from that point who had stuck around to that point and made it to Fire in the Sky to the end.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite movies to this day. All those E.T. and all these different movies. Okay, so there was movies as a kid. Frank Versenda's class when I was 18 got me into the cosmos. Then I started reading. I asked Frank Fresenda for a book recommendation. The one book he'd recommend more than any other, it was called Coming of Age and the Milky Way. It's kind of a dense book, but that got me into Carl Sagan and Brief History of Time. Started reading about physics and um, relativity, and I've been fascinated with the cosmos. And I used it as a little trick when I was stressed out as a teenager. Uh, I'd like think about how insignificant my problems were compared to the vastness of the cosmos and how mysterious it is out there. And it would minimize. This doesn't work on me anymore because maybe my problems have gotten too immense. But I've grown up a little bit. But it used to work where I'd think of the cosmos and how vast everything is, and my little concern about New York state tax or something like that means very little. That worked for a long time. Anyway, all those things. I'm still obsessed with the cosmos. Ufology and UFOs and UAPs. Being honest, I know little of the very storied history of ufology. I'm fascinated by it. It's mostly the cosmos that has really drawn my attention, but I've always been kind of interested in ufology, UAPs, Bob Lazar's story, and George Knapp, his stories, Robert Bigelow's stories, and what he has to say about things.
Yeah.
Those guys fascinate me, and that's my extent of like ufology knowledge. I'm more of
Yeah.
a Google Ads expert, and as
Yeah.
we'll talk about,
Well, let's come on to that then.
yeah,
Let's so your before we come on to the sort of the tracker website, which I am just
yeah,
fascinated by, and I'll spend loads of time on it. I've used it loads. But in terms of what's your background? So, how do you know how to do this? What do you
all
do?
right, okay. So I went to school for writing. I became a grant writer out of school when I was in my early 20s, and was a grant writer for a nonprofit. It didn't take me long to realize that the success in grant writing is less about your ability to write. I'm not being cynical. It's just how it is or how it was when I did that, and more about your ability to know of like wealthy grant makers and be able to be talk with them and know who's who. When I was a kid out of school and these grant makers on Long Island me very serious. I'm asking them for millions of dollars, So it was less about more of that, and I solution with it, even though it's incredible work. It wasn't for me, and I wasn't going to wait until I was old enough for grant makers to take me seriously. So I left grant writing. So one of the grants I successfully wrote in that time was to Google. They were doing something called a Google grant, and it's an incredible thing that they still do. And it gives a nonprofit $10,000 per month indefinitely for life as Google's around, which is probably going to be forever. So $10,000 per month to use on something called Google Ads. And I had no idea what Google Ads was or a Google grant or what any of this meant, but I know I won the grant and my boss was happy, but he was also pissed because he didn't know what Google Ads was and no one had, it seemed like a full-time job that we had to manage it and do all this stuff. So it became my job to manage this and figure out what it was. So I was fascinated by the work. And basically, Google Ads is if you type anything into Google, you see an ad at the top result of your screen. If you type men's shoes, you see an ad at the top of you'll see a few ads at the top of the screen. If it says sponsored, Google's always changing it, but if it says sponsored, that's an ad. When you do that, whether you click the ad or not, your data passes through to Google, and that includes your age, your gender, your income, your parental status, your marital status, where you work, the company you work for, if you have kids, how old your kids are, the word for word searches you type in to Google, your browsing history, buckets, uh, the device you're on. I don't know if I said that. There's many more. It's watched of your personal identifiers. So your name and your like IP address and those things, your phone number, they don't pass through to Google, but everything else passes through to Google. And then it passes to search engine marketers. These are the people who run the ads. They're intermediaries between Google and advertisers. I had no idea about any of this when I started this, but this is a massive industry that makes up about 85% of Google's revenue if it was not for Google Ads, which has been called the greatest business model of the last 50 years by a lot of smart people. I agree. It's a brilliant, brilliant business model because Google charges per click. It's pay-per-click advertising. They make billions and billions of dollars on all the ad clicks, and they're siphoning humanity's data at the same time and amassing it, which they're now using for AI purposes, but they've been holding on to it since Google Ads inception in 2002. And if you think about it, all of the ads you see online, banners and text ads and so forth, they help Google because people come back to Google and they search on Google, and Google benefits from that. Massive industry, hundreds of billions of dollars exchanging between advertisers and Google, and the search engine marketers are the intermediaries. I'm a search engine marketer. I've been doing this since those days at the nonprofit when my boss got pissed off and gave me the Google Ads account to manage. I got so fascinated with it. I worked for a few marketing agencies, and then I struck out on my own to start a business and get clients. And I've been doing this for 15 years since that nonprofit till today. And I've built a successful business managing ads on behalf of advertisers in a multitude of verticals. So where it changed for me, where everything changed, it was around 2017. And I don't know what came first. It was like three different things happened at the same time. I happened to be on a writing retreat. I was trying to work on a novel. And I had like writer's block and I couldn't think of anything to write. I was sitting there and I had like 5 days at this place I paid for and I couldn't write anything. So I started reading this book called Everybody Lies by Seth Stevens Davidowitz. He's a really smart guy. He used something called Google Trends, which we could talk about a little later, to look at big data and what it reveals about, like it finds new ways to tell stories about groups of people we think we understand. He used Google Trends, and in like 2 paragraphs in the whole book, he talks about using Google Ads to do this. So let's hold that thought for a second. I also heard about this guy Kevin Hines, who attempted to commit suicide in like year 2000, I think, by jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge, and he survived the jump. Most vast majority of people don't survive that. He survived, and something very stunning that he had said after was when he jumped, like he just regretted that he had jumped as soon as he did it. And he also said that he wished that one person on the bridge had like spoken to him and maybe like just listened to him and he wouldn't have jumped. That got me thinking, like, what if he had Googled, like, I'm suicidal, I want to kill myself? Like, do people Google that? That was a question I asked myself. Is that a thing? Could an ad have like said, hey, stop for a second, talk to somebody, we can connect you, take 15 seconds, click this button, and you can talk to somebody right now?
Yeah.
I thought of that around the same time. I read about this thing that Google was doing, this had this incubated project called the redirect method, where they were running ads to people who were typing into Google that they wanted to join ISIS, and they were using ads to redirect people's intent and all this wild stuff that was going on. And they were getting people to not join ISIS with an ad and a landing page, which was mind blowing. This was like, I don't know what happened with that program, but they were trying to do that in 2017 to de-radicalize people using ads, Google ads. So these three things happen at the same time. And I learned about, basically had this light bulb moment as I was sitting there in this writing retreat and I couldn't write. I was like, can Google ads be used for things other than making money and selling people crap and products and services and men's shoes and divorce lawyers and foreclosure sales? And can it be used for like so-called unmonetizable keywords to help people? So I started running these campaigns and I started buying keywords that no advertiser would like touch in their right mind, because there's no money involved in buying like I want to kill myself, or I'm very depressed, or where to buy heroin, or how to join ISIS, or any of these terms where there's no revenue to occasion the click. So anyway, I was curious sitting in that writing retreat. I started building campaigns, and I started building this suicide campaign, and I started buying up all these keywords like I want to kill myself, I'm very depressed, and tried to put myself in the shoes of like Kevin Hines or anyone who was suicidal. What would they type? I didn't really know. I'm not an expert in that area, but I just bought all these keywords up. And then I ran an ad to a hotline. One of the quirks of Google Ads is you can direct, Google's getting better at this, but you can still do it. You can direct an ad to any site you want, which is kind of crazy. So you can write an ad right now and claim it was written by CNN and drive the traffic to CNN. In fact, I did this in a few years ago. I wrote for keywords like, should I vote for Trump? I wrote some outlandish things in the ad, and I directed the ad to CNN. So someone who has 2 seconds might think that CNN wrote it, and they go to CNN, they don't even read it, but they would think that. Anyway, it's a quirk of Google Ads. I directed people to a suicide hotline in this campaign, and I was kind of shocked at the result. I didn't run it for that long. It was like 10 days or something like that. But my so-called conversion rate, that means the amount of people who conduct an action after they click, was like 30% or something, 25 or 30%, which is absurdly high. The
Wow.
average conversion rate in Google Ads is like 4%. So if I buy the ad men's shoes, I would hope that my client gets a conversion rate of 4%. That means 4 out of 100 people who click the ad turn into a sale. That's good. That's average. This was like 25 to 30% were typing, I'm suicidal, and then calling the hotline. And I was like kind of blown away. So I shut that down because it's my own money, by the way. I'm paying every time somebody clicks, and people were clicking a lot. And I was kind of blown away by how many people search this stuff. So then I realized that people use Google as like not just a way to fulfill their like transactional needs or navigational needs or etc. They'll confess to Google, like even when they're uncomfortable or bored or they're sitting there on the train, they like use it as a, like you might think of like how someone in the near future is going to talk to an AI bot or something. They
Yeah.
do and still do talk to Google. They'll just be stressed and be like, I want to kill myself. Like people do that all the time and every day. So I realized it was a means for confession, and it made me realize that all of the data that occasions these searches is extremely powerful in that context, because you get all of the data that occasions these suicidal searches, and it can really help entities that are trying to help the suicidal. So in fact, I've partnered with a couple agencies who are trying to um, improve calls to their suicide hotlines, and we partner together, and they want to know the data that I see, like what are the average ages and genders and zip codes in XYZ area that are searching this stuff, and then they sculpt their ad copy or landing page experience around that data. It improves the call volume. So anyway, long story short, I ran the suicide campaign. It worked. I ran another campaign to people who were telling Google they wanted to try heroin. When that ran and it worked, I paused it. I ran another one to people who wanted to join ISIS, who wanted to shoot up their school or workplace. And when I ran that, every day people in America were typing in, I want to shoot up my workplace or do a mass shooting. Like almost every day people search that in Google, which is insane, but it's true.
Jeez. Wow.
Google doesn't allow those ads anymore, but I did run it. I ran the political ads in 2020, and I was right, just ran whatever came to mind. I was saying crazy stuff in the ads about Trump and Biden. When people typed in, should I vote for Trump or Biden? And Google let me like write anything. Wired ran a story about what I did with that and Google found out about it and they cracked down on it from what I did. I believe, I don't know if it was me, but that Wired article definitely like it ended after that. I couldn't do it anymore. So I ran so many campaigns, migrants, Scientologists, people in Antarctica trying to run ads to people in prison who just anything, any area where you'd want to learn more about. In one instance, in Tanzania during COVID, the Tanzanian government was hiding their COVID cases to the rest of the world, and there was a little controversy about what was really going on in Tanzania as far as COVID. It was a very mysterious situation, and I realized like you could run Google ads over there to see that you could buy the keyword anosmia, which is or was a leading indicator of COVID, and see how many people are searching for anosmia. Then you could figure out how many people have COVID. And the Tanzanian government said it was like they had no issue over there. But I saw the amount of people telling Google they had anosmia in Tanzania was like pretty high. So I was like, okay. So that made me realize that Google Ads could be used as like a flare. Like if there's an area where people don't want anyone else to know outside of their borders what's going on, you could run ads to its citizens. I called it a data flare. It sounds fancy, but I thought it was a cool name. It's like a flare from behind this black box, and you could use Google Ads to intercept it and see what's going on. So anyway, long story short, you can use Google Ads to sell crap, or you could use it to learn more about humanity. If you go that route and you have the money to do it, I did for these experiments, and I spent like 5 figures of my own money out of my curiosity and just to figure it out.
Did you
And
do, sorry, just to jump in, did you do anything with it? Because I mean, it sounds fascinating.
yeah,
It seems like my sort of mind would probably work in a similar kind of way. I'd want to know how does that work? Why does that work? And what information can you get from it? But what did you do with it? Did you use it towards a book or towards a kind of a storyline, or is it just pure curiosity?
I did it out of curiosity, and some of them led somewhere to areas that I was really happy with, like the partnerships. I was most happy with the partnerships with, I did studies with different groups and collaborations with nonprofits that exist still to this day, where I run the ads for them and they use the data and we form a partnership, and it's a win-win for everybody. We learn more about new ways of looking at the suicidal mindset that have never before been seen, and they get more calls to the hotlines and hopefully save more lives. And that's makes me feel so great
That's
that the
fantastic.
work could
Yeah.
go that way. There were other experiments that didn't pan out, like my silence. I wanted to see how many people were involved with Scientology. No one cared about that one. The harm reduction one, serving ads to people who tell Google they want to use heroin. I did partner with this. I still have a partnership to this day with this harm reduction nonprofit who's trying to spread awareness about fentanyl and Narcan. And we still, so some experiments turned into collaborations and that have impacted and helped people, which makes me feel
Yeah.
like some were just too out there some got picked up by places that wrote about it. But yeah, it's mostly been out of my curiosity. So um, last summer, coming to UAPs, I um, I ran campaigns, which I've been wanting to do. Last summer, I bought the keywords I saw a UAP, I saw a UFO, report a UAP, report a UFO. And I learned something in my Tanzania experiment. I started experimenting with this tool called Google Looker. It used to be called Google Data Studio. It's this really user-friendly tool that allows you to make maps and connects with Google Ads in a cool way. And I created a heat map for the Tanzania experiment of where people in Tanzania were when they told Google they had anosmia, aka COVID. And I thought that was really crazy. You could do that. And if you linked Google Ads, these are free tools that you can learn in 45 minutes, by the way. Maybe not Google Ads, but Google Looker. So you combine Google Ads with Google Looker and a website I just bought on Squarespace and linked it all together. It was pretty easy. In other words, when people would search in the Tanzania experiment, it would populate on a heat map in like pretty fast in real time. And I learned that from the Tanzania experiment. So I applied that to the UAP campaigns that I ran last summer. So for the entire United States, and I chose the United States because I don't have the budget to go worldwide. We'll talk about that in a second, but I have to pay every single time someone clicks an ad. So I'll walk you through
Wow.
the whole workflow in a second, but targeted the US only last summer, bought a website, signed up for Google Looker, built a map in there, connected the whole thing. So, and I ran ads and um, created a Google Ads account just for the UAP. And I ran it last summer. So effectively, whenever somebody typed on their phone or tablet or laptop or whatever, I saw a UAP in about 20 minutes or less or a little more, it'll populate on the map. So I ran that for 6 weeks last summer just to make sure it worked. And the money was burning a little bit. So it cost me like $600 to do it. And then I was like, what am I doing with this? I don't know. I know it works. Um, so I shut it off. But since I shut it off, like I've been like really, it's been bothering me to turn it back on. This was last August when I tried it for the first time. So I've been thinking about it since then. And then I don't know if I, yeah, the story how I got back into it is not very interesting, but my wife and I were basically driving a few weeks ago, and we were just talking about UAPs and UFOs, and we had like a spooky experience at night where the moon was absolutely massive in the sky, the largest moon I've ever seen, and it crept us out. It gave us an eerie feeling, and we were driving in the woods and jokingly talking about a bar called Classified, maybe opening a bar together that was like UAP themed, and it was very classy. I don't know, it was 2 in the morning. Anyway, it gave, and then we stopped and looked at the cosmos. We pulled over and looked at the stars and had an eerie, beautiful feeling driving in the woods, and the moon kept following us. And from that conversation, how it made me feel, I realized I had this thought the next morning. I need to do things um, that make me full of wonder and follow things that give me wonder. And the cosmos and all that, cosmology gives me wonder. And some of the experiments I did don't give me wonder. It's just like, let me see if I could do this. And then I get in a situation where um, I'm not full of wonder. I'm just going with it. So because the cosmos gives me wonder, I wanted to turn it on again. So I turned it on again and just brushed up the campaigns, made sure everything was working with Google Looker, and turned it on again. And then I posted it on Reddit. And this time, the reaction was much bigger this time when I posted it. For some reason, I don't know, compared to last summer, I did exactly the same thing. But that's where I'm at. So effectively, I have a website. When you search in the US, report a UAP, report a UFO, or you saw a UAP, you saw a UFO, it populates on my website in 20 minutes. And that's where I'm at. So
You're paying for our sort of interest in in the
yeah,
subject. When we use it,
the
it's costing you.
the incredible thing about Google Ads is that data passes through just upon the search. That's one thing I really want to get across. And that makes it so powerful. Just the act of searching, the data passes through. Um, though it's pay-per-click advertising, that's kind of just a side effect of all this, that I have to run an ad. The ad is meaningless. And if you want to know, the ad directs to another website of mine where people type in their actual experiences and I get them. But I don't care about all that. It's just I have to run an ad to make this all work.
Yeah.
I actually don't want people to click the ad because it costs me money. I just want something there. So Google's
Yeah.
like, okay, you're doing Google ads, and then the impressions can rack up and it goes through.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, so I'm paying like $600 a month to do this. To do it right in the US, it really needs like $2,000 a month. Um, because my budget is only there's something called impression share Google Ads. Don't get into it, but basically 3 times as many people are searching UAP or UFO in the United States than my budget can handle. That means my ads only show to 1/3 of the searches.
Wow.
So I am about to get to the phase where I'm going to spend the full amount for the US. And I've decided I moved forward this morning. I'm building an app because Reddit gave me some incredible feedback, and I was so happy about that. I'm not an expert in the UAP space, and I made that very clear. I'm an expert in Google Ads, and nor am I an expert in the suicide space or harm reduction or any of the different things that I've experimented with. And I rely on the experts, and I'm happy to give the data to them. So, yeah, one of the great pieces of feedback from Reddit was, I'll tell you the 2 or 3 big ones that I'm going to make sure I fix. The first one was a complaint to normalize the data, which I totally agree with. Some people were like real trolls about it. I respect the trolls. They were like, "Why do we care? This is like a population map. What you have." They're kind of right. It's just more people search from bigger cities. So the main criticism I got was to normalize the data by population. I do plan to do that. And the second one was that the mobile experience is horrendous. I agree with that. I can't really control that with Google Looker, but anyway, this morning I moved forward with making an app, which should be ready October 1st, and makes this whole experience seamless with a lot of new additions. It'll be seamless on mobile, and it'll overlay like military sites. That was another great feedback from Reddit. Overlay nuclear sites, so people could look at sightings in a normalized fashion, where they are compared to military sites and the nuclear sites. People get a push notification on the app if a sighting has happened near them. There's a lot of different features that we're going to do, and that's where we're at. So I thank Reddit for giving me such incredible feedback on that. That helped me a lot. So, and they've been really supportive with the whole idea since I posted it, and I got a lot of messages, and great people have been awesome. So that's where we're
Fantastic.
at.
Awesome. I mean, I guess the old school way of reporting would be something like MUFON, and it was very sort of one way transactional that we give them our sightings and it's kind of stored there, but it's not really something that you can easily search. And your point about having being able to do a sort of search of your area is really, really useful. I mean, I would love to have something like that. And in fact, I used your when we sort of connected uh, whenever last week or so. And I checked out the website and I thought, oh, this is really, really interesting, really great. Why haven't we got this, or why wasn't this here before? And it just so happened that I did a podcast with a guy called Yao-Sin Yaman who filmed the very famous Camburgus UFO from many, many years ago. And he'd made a prediction during our podcast interview that on the 28th of July, I believe, there's going to be a sighting. And he kind of gave the location and the date. And other than doing a Google search and searching that location and putting the date in and just getting thousands of different random useless responses, I put it into your website, and bang, I had a date and I had the sort of locations popular. I was like,
Oh,
okay.
cool.
And someone had made a comment that it'd gone past the 28th and said, oh yeah, Yausin made this prediction, there's been no sightings. And I just kind of I took some screenshots from your website where there'd been lots of sightings. I think I can't remember how many, but
Well,
various sightings on that day, and just screenshots. I said, well, I don't know which one it is, but there's been plenty of sightings on that day in that location.
that's
Um,
really
yeah,
awesome. So
yeah, it was really
uh,
cool.
yeah, so that's really,
Would
here's the
that
thing.
be
Yeah, here's the thing about the Google Ads. I think it is superior to the method of trying to get submissions via report,
yeah,
because if I've learned anything from Google Ads over like being in this industry over 15 years, anytime you ask people, nothing's changed either. It's even gotten worse. Whenever you ask people to do anything, fill out a form, download a white paper that takes 2 seconds, or even place a call, or sign up, or whatever, you will inevitably lose a swath of people, and it's not nothing. It's considerable. I don't wouldn't even claim to guess what that is in this space, but when you're asking people to submit their experience, you're going to lose them.
yeah,
In this instance, you don't have any of that lost data because you're not relying on people submitting. You're just relying on them searching. The very first interface with Google, their so-called awareness phase, if like put crassly, if we're talking about the marketing funnel, that first little top of the pyramid entry into the funnel, awareness, like we're just capturing them at the very first touch point, and we don't have to worry about losing them or them even finding or knowing about a resource. And we don't have to worry about any privacy stuff because we're not asking for any of their personal information. And if there's any privacy concerns, there's no privacy concerns because Google handles all that. They don't pass to marketers, search engine marketers. They don't pass any of the personal identifiers that they get from you. We get none of that, and none of the data on the website reveals anyone's personal identifiers. We don't ask for anything. So yeah,
Yeah, that's
for the
good.
statement.
Yeah, I think there was, I mean, the only other one that I'm aware of is Enigma Labs. I don't know if you're aware of
Yeah,
Enigma Labs, and there was a sort of concern. I don't use it, and I'm not going to rubbish them, but there were some concerns raised around, I think, sort of the privacy side of things and the potential of things potentially happening in the future with shareholders and what have you. So as a result, I don't endorse it. I don't use it. But the idea of it, the concept of it is fantastic. And, one of the questions that jumped to mind really when you were talking there was, is there an opportunity within it to submit sort of photos and locations and that sort of information within your, the app idea? Is that?
I think Enigma's covered that ground well.
Mm.
And I'm not even interested in that because yeah, Enigma's got the social side covered of submissions, and I'm not even going to attempt to try to do anything better than that, or they've got that. What I'm trying to do is provide superior data by volume.
Yeah.
I think that's where this really shines, is in the sheer volume of data that can be referenced. I think the Google Ads methods, it can't be beat by that metric. So I think that's where this would truly shine, is in the sheer volume of sightings that could be, yeah. And all the data on my site is going to be publicly available. It already is now. I know it's hard to navigate now. The app's going to change that, but yeah, the data, you can right click anything you want and export it to CSV. Nothing's going to change when it's done. You can do that. And this is just going to get more and more robust as it continues to run. It's still so early. It's only been running for like a total of like 7 weeks if we count last summer and now when I resumed it. But like 2 years in, how much data will be available? I do I do plan to expand this globally. I don't know how soon that would take a lot of funding, and I don't know how that's going to work, but I do plan to make it global eventually. It's probably going to cost like 5 figures a month, realistically 10,000 a month, just seeing how many people search in the US, but that's a plan eventually. But I think the one thing I'm trying to get out of this is I'm hoping that people who study UAPs can get new data from this that they would have never gotten otherwise, and they will not get otherwise. And it can benefit researchers or people who are just curious. And I hope everyone could get something from this.
It would be I mean, it is a fantastic resource. I mean, I've only just learned about it, but there's nothing like it out there. And when I saw it, you just sort of casually, oh yeah, I've got this thing. I was like, what the hell? Like, we've needed that in this community since forever. Being able to just do that search and go, okay, all of the stats are there, and it's just casually sitting there. This website that, wow. But
I'm
how is
glad you.
it? How is it? How would it be sustainable? I mean, it cost you, especially to go worldwide, it costs you an absolute fortune. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, okay, the US thing, I could do the US indefinitely if there was, you know, realistically, honestly, I'm gonna have to find a way to monetize the app in some way
yeah,
to recoup, because the app, paying for the app myself, paying for the US myself, um, all the hosting and different stuff, that's fine. But I'm gonna have to find a way to monetize the app, and we're thinking of ways to do that. The free version is going to be very robust, and people can get a lot of data out of it. But yeah, it's going to have to find a way to monetize it realistically. Outside of that, to go globally, would need to tap into some funding. Maybe I could tap into my short-lived grant writing experience there. Maybe people take me seriously now. I'm not 22 years old. Gonna have to get funding to do the worldwide thing for sure. Because
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think any monetizing the app would recoup those kind of costs. But that just shows you how many people are searching this on Google where it would cost that amount of money. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Can I ask, have you, from the data that you've seen, have you seen any kind of links to any specific sites? And what I'm trying to get at is there's this common belief, shall I say, that there are more sightings around nuclear sites, nuclear bases, strategic nuclear sites. Um, have you seen any kind of variables there where there are correlations perhaps with specific sites at all? Or have you got the ability to build that into, the tech
In
going
the
forward?
app and the app, we definitely plan to overlay nuclear sites and military sites. 100% plan to. Um, and yeah, somebody on Reddit, I don't know what thread this was in, or someone did a rough overlay of military sites, and it like scarily matched the
Mm.
sightings. It was really crude, and the overlay was like very warped. I don't know where I saw it. Somebody did that.
Mm.
I didn't really get to look at it too, but I saw it on my phone, and I'm like, holy cow, it like matched pretty well. So I'm excited. By October 1st, this should be done. So I'm definitely going to see some rough versions of this before it's done, but that's definitely a big plan. And it was feedback from Reddit about both of those things that made me think of it. I didn't think of it.
Mm.
So we definitely will have toggleable, probably, where you can just overlay the sites, and then we'll know for sure. But in that warped, crude version that the Redditor had made, it was kind of scary how it did match. Another weird quirk, and I don't know why there's no sightings in the Midwest, really. Uh, I'm running campaigns in the Midwest, but there's no sightings. I don't know what that's about. The ads are eligible to serve. No one's searching. I'm not a UFO expert. I don't know why that would be, but I would expect like some impressions by now. But it's like, if you look at the map all time, like the Midwest, there's like no activity. So that's weird. Those two things, yeah, is all I've noticed so far. But time will tell. This will just get more robust as time goes on and more
Yeah,
data accumulates, and we go from weeks to months to years, so.
it's fantastic. I mean, we keep the criticism, I think, of the UFO community, the UAP community, whatever you want to call it, is that it's very much stories and not data. And to have the ability to integrate data into the research is fantastic. So I really applaud you. It's a
Cool.
great idea. It's like that idea that's always been there, but nobody's been able to articulate. It's like we need
Right,
something. We need something,
right.
and you've created it. It's
Indeed.
awesome.
I appreciate those kind words. And if I can address two things, 30 seconds each, that I got some trolls about. I don't know if it was trolls. 1 out of 20 responses were trolls, and they were
Yeah,
great. I like the trolls.
I'm used to it. I'm
I'm
used to
not
it by
even
now.
bothered, man. It's hilarious. I love trolls. But I got trolled for a few things. Um, Someone was like, "Hey, what if I just keep searching a million times for UFOs from like Nebraska? I'm gonna ruin your data, and I'm gonna click your ad a million times." Okay, that's a troll, but that's a great question. So I wanted to address that because you can't do that. You can't game the system because Google Ads has this built-in mechanism. Like when one person searches like more than a few times and they don't show intent, meaning they don't click an ad, Google's going to shut the ads off for them for their IP address. If they click the ad and they keep spamming it, Google shuts the ad off for them. It's a built-in fail-safe. Um, that prevents that entirely. So
Okay, yeah.
wanted to address that.
That makes sense. You'd think that
Yeah.
it would be that technical that it would be able to figure that out
Yep.
by now.
So
So
that's
that makes
covered.
sense.
The other thing I wanted to address, also a great question or comment or troll. It was kind of a troll. Few people were like, okay, what if people are Googling like uh UAP sightings 2024? Great question. Uh, that would certainly be data I don't want on the map. If you got all these people that are looking for like the craziest UAP sightings of 2024, that means they didn't see a UAP. But the logical thinking is it would trigger my ad. That is correct. But there's something in Google Ads called negative keywords, which is like this kind of hidden tool where you can filter out all of the crap and the junk searches. So in other words, sightings and 2024 are negative keywords because I don't want people triggering my ad. I don't care about paying for it. That would suck, but I don't care. I don't want the data to get polluted with people searching for like cool videos, you know? Anyway, wanted to address that. I got a few trolls about that. It's a valid question, but two things that are handled by Google Ads is like built-in mechanisms that really help this data. So wanted to address that.
Fantastic. I mean, I find I quite enjoy the trolls, and I'll put videos out, and I put videos out on YouTube as well. And I did a
Not even
the
phase.
debunkers video.
Doesn't even phase me. It's
I enjoy it. I mean, I'm not. I
good.
don't. Some people get really sort of upset by them and take it really personally, but I find it quite useful because it's. I get that sense of the feeling of people on different sides of an argument, and it helps me sort of move forward. And same with you, like in terms of analytics, I'm obsessed with analytics.
Cool.
I'm constantly on like YouTube Studio looking through analytics. Okay, so it's like 99%, 95% males that, between these ages that watch the videos, all that sort of stuff. I just find it
It is
fascinating.
fascinating. And there is, Seth Stevens-Davidowitz, who wrote that book, Everybody Lies, said Google is the greatest data set ever collected on the human psyche. Quite a massive statement to make, but I totally 100% agree with that. They've been amassing this for 20 something years, 22 years. And it just shows how powerful Google Ads is and how much money it makes, that how fine-tuned it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can use it for other means to learn a lot more about areas of society we don't know much about.
Absolutely. Look, Pat, I'm conscious of the time. I really appreciate you talking to me. I'd love to sort of link back up again in the not too distant future. I'd love to have a play with the app and get stuck into that, especially when it's when it's out, and we can talk more about that if that's cool with you.
Absolutely.
Superb. All right then, man. I really appreciate it. That was fascinating. I'm obsessed with I'm obsessed with like the analytics and how Google works. And
keep in touch on Instagram or email, and let's keep chatting. And this is the first time I've ever done anything like this with this project. So I really appreciate your interest, and thank you very much. I'm looking forward to when this drops on IG, and I'll be sure to share it. Thank you so much.
100%. No, my absolute pleasure. And we need something like this, and we've needed it for a long time. And I think a lot of people are going to be very excited to have it. They don't realize that it's available, or will be, more more user friendly with the app and stuff as well. Awesome. Nice one. Okay, buddy. Well, take care of yourself, and thanks again.
Thanks a lot.
Hope to speak to you soon, man. Take care of yourself.